Howdy, everybody, and welcome to Fight Club. It's Happy Tuesday time.
Happy Valentine's Day.
Yes, and happy Valentine's
Day. It is. I love that.
Martha's got her red on.
I think I missed that memo. I missed the color memo for Valentine's.
So did I.
So we're together on that.
It's a given.
It is a given. I messed up with that one. Next year. I'll get it next year. Well, welcome to Fight Club for Business, the show for home service business owners looking to improve their marketing, finances, systems, and culture. We're a team of self-employed industry experts, and we get to be joined this week by our guest, Andrew Miller. Thank you for joining us, Andrew, and welcome to the show. We're super excited to have you.
Awesome. Thank you for having me so much. It's been great.
Absolutely. Well, can you just give our listeners kind of a brief rundown of yourself and your business just so they can get to know you a little bit?
Yeah, that's absolutely. So I am a entrepreneur. I've had a couple different businesses. I have a background in recruiting, some marketing, home services. Most recently, I'm the co-founder of Service Ally, which is a done-for-you program designed to build recurring revenue into home service businesses. I also am the founder of Blue Renegade Agency, which is a no-code software development agency. So basically, in short, that means I just help integrate and automate small business tech stacks or softwares, or create custom software at an affordable cost for small businesses and startups. So yeah, that's a little bit of it. Do you want me to go into more detail? I enjoy hiking in the Pacific Northwest, Washington and Oregon. Play board games, reading. I read a lot, so that's fun.
Awesome.
I enjoy AI tools.
I'm excited
to talk about it.
We'll be able to kind of really cover each one of these segments with you today. It's just going to be really exciting. So
Awesome.
Thank you for that introduction. And good morning, Steve. Hope you're having a good morning there. My name is Taylor Maroney, and I co-own a power washing company in South Florida with my husband. And my background is in marketing as well. So I come from the marketing industry where I really helped business owners understand the numbers behind their marketing so they can make better decisions based upon that. And also really love to live in the virtual world. I am. I'm excited. We're going to have a lot of fun today, kind of talking marketing. So I'm excited to be back on Fight Club with everyone, and welcome back to Fight Club. And I'm brain dead today, so go ahead and take it over, Megan.
I think
Most
we
of
all
us are coming back from it.
Yeah, the five of us just got back from a pretty intense experience. We were at GutterCon. We had our third admin bootcamp adventure. It was a success. We had some guest appearances at a Christmas light training with Donovan. We went to Disney World. It was like a whirlwind week. We are all settling back in. My name is Megan Legs. I'm the founder of Bookkeeping Academy Online. I educate and empower small business owners to know their numbers so that they can live more financially rewarding lives. I also own a full service accounting firm called Legs Accounting Company. I own a window cleaning, gutter cleaning company with my husband, Jeff, in Northern California. I feel like I should add Service Ally in there. I am a co-founder of a company called Service Ally with Andrew Miller, and we are working hard to bring recurring revenue into home service businesses that have struggled with that in the past. And there's a couple more things that I'm sure I'm forgetting, but I'm happy to be back on Fight Club this week. And Andrew, we're so excited to have you on the show.
Thank you. Yeah, shameless plug.
Hey there, Andrew. Hey there, Andrew. I'm Michelle, co-owner of Pink Collars, and we put remote admins in your service business. So if you need help with the phones and emails and tasks and all of that stuff that can vary you very easily, Pink Collars can help you. I also co-own a home service business. So my husband does a floor coatings company here in Northern Virginia. And you said two things on Valentine's Day. And although I do love my husband dearly, you said tech and stack in the same sentence. So I might be in love with you. Happy Valentine's Day. I can't wait to talk to you about tech and systems. Thank you for joining us.
Amazing. No, thank you. I'm excited to talk about that too.
That was fantastic.
And my name is Martha Woodward, and I have my background cutting my teeth in the maid service business. Learned a lot about leading people in the right direction. And so I now have a course business and also co-founder of Quality Driven Software. And Andrew and I just recently got the chance to be together and geek out about all things AI and how you can put that into other softwares. It's like a no code type of software. So anyway,
I have to rat you out because they were nerding out about AI from a private suite at a professional basketball game where other people were watching basketball and drinking beer, and these two were in a corner talking about training modules with AI and automation.
It was on the TV. I was watching, and
we were checking in on the game, even though we were nerding out. You know, it's called multitasking, or automating our time. It's about priorities, right?
It's sadly very fun to talk about all that stuff. So
I may or may not have been hiding in a corner on somebody's like foldable cell phone on a Google sheet writing formulas. So I cannot.
I was gonna say, you were probably doing something very similar. I don't.
The ringleader.
Different. Yeah.
It was amazing.
This is what happens when you put business owners in a suite at a basketball game. They just can't stop businessing. So, well, as we continue here, I'm going to steal you first. And we're going to talk, Andrew, about some marketing. And what I do want to talk about, since you do have that marketing background and we want to talk kind of numbers and stuff as well in that realm, I want to talk about how to market a recurring service. Because a lot of business owners want to add this in. This is a very high topic of conversation right now, but they get stuck in that position of, well, how do I just tell my current customers or my, new customers that we really have this service we want to push without being too salesy, too pitchy, too pushy on that customer? Because I think a lot of business owners feel as though it can be, I don't want to say like spammy or salesy or scammy, but they feel as though they're like, some feel like they might be taking advantage by asking for more from a client, when realistically you're doing what's best for the client by providing that service more and giving them a better quality experience. So in your opinion, what is the best way to kind of start when talking about the marketing side of recurring revenue?
Absolutely. This is obviously a very crucial and critical part of the whole process. So I'm going to start off by saying, whenever you're marketing or communicating about some kind of recurring service program, or trying to implement a recurring service program into your business, there's kind of two pillars sorry about that. There's only one person that comes through my do not disturb, and that is my wife. And actually, no, there is two people. There's Jenny, my wife, and Megan, actually. So you're the two people that come through. Anyway, so that was Jenny, my wife, checking on me and saying happy. And she's another great person to have on the show in her own right. She has shameless plugs for her little business. Anyway, so we're sorry, your question was recurring service and everything. So there's two primary pillars. Yeah, how to market that and how to communicate to customers. Two primary pillars. That when you're thinking about implementing a recurring service program, maintenance program, membership program, however that looks like. Number one, it has to be simple and easy for the customer to understand and ultimately sign up. And just painlessly simple and easy and efficient. And the second one is probably a more of a Michelle thing. It needs to be easy to operate and automate on the back end. So maybe we'll get that with you, Michelle. But on the front end, the way we're doing this and how we've really tinkered and made this whole program work is we want to be communicating to the customer in simple terms how this program works. So for our purposes, for Service Ally, for home service companies, window cleaning, pressure washing, gutter cleaning, we're giving the value proposition very easily, saying, hey, Mrs. Jones, our star customer. We're trying to communicate them at every point, every part of the journey. So when they're getting a quote from us on ResponseBid or whatever other software that you use for your quoting or sales, we're communicating with them about, hey, did you know that you could get our service, our quality service year round and keep your house looking amazing all year round? On the job, when we finish the job, we have a script for the text to say, hey, Mrs. Jones, hope you enjoyed and do a walk around the house. Say, hey, Mrs. Jones, we'd love to keep this your property and your home looking pristine, clean year round. And we're telling them about telling them about it in that moment. We also have other touch points of, automated emails and automated direct mailers, texts. Really, we're trying to convey in not being pushy, but trying to convey in as little terms as possible how this is going to benefit them and really speak into their pain points.
I love this.
They want to clean house. Yeah.
Very similar. I mean, in the way my marketing brain is thinking right now to how it takes 7 to 10 touches to get a client initially. So we're repeating that same process, right? We're taking, small bite-sized steps and touches to make sure that we're showing them, hey, we have this service, Mrs. Jones. This is exactly what we can provide for you all year round. And, it fits into this membership. You get this X amount of premium, whatever, whatever the company designs around that service and recurring service or membership, like you said. But it does take it's not going to be sold on the first one. Like it's not, right. We have to get that idea kind of like out of our head. It took 7 to 10 touches for them to come to you initially. Now we're trying to initially upsell them in a sense to going into a recurring service that is going to better them as the homeowner and as your client. But again, it takes those 7 to 10 touches. So I just wanted to kind of touch on that for people listening, because that's very important to notate, that just because they got to you doesn't mean they're automatically going to bite on the upsell right away. So I'm going to let you continue. Sorry.
Statistically, we've noticed that 10% of customers will do that. So your 7 to 10 touches is pretty dead on. Like 1 out of 10 times somebody will say, oh yeah, I want you to do that again at the first service before the first service. We have other statistics about what happens after that first service, but it's kind of fascinating. Like when you give yourself the grace about that 10%, you're like, oh, okay, well, how do we improve that experience?
Absolutely.
Exactly. And I think 2 quick comments on this. Number one, I think, Megan, at this point, we have about 15 to 20 different touch points, everything from specific emails or, a mailer or an actual conversation with the tech, those being touch points to even, a PS and a, hey, we're on our way, text, PS, would you like to have this, so we have a discount membership program or whatever you want to call it. So that's it's absolutely communicating more value or communicating more times is more important, because our customers are busy. They have a lot of things going on, just like us and just like anyone. And the more times you can either remind them of a service that is for their benefit, and also the more times you can communicate the value in also simple terms, right? I think that's another pitfall that we have here, is we either overcomplicate the sign-up process, we overcomplicate, the communication, and the more easily and the more painless and streamlined you can make that process for your customer, the more they're going to love you. They want a simplified life. They want a more simple life, and if you can take more responsibility and work off of their plate, then they'll love you forever.
Awesome. Okay, so I want to briefly talk about simplified terms, because I do feel like this is something that people overdo, as you're explaining right now, when it comes to talking about these types of recurring services. So a lot of people tend to throw all the value. Like you're going to get, a discount from being in the membership. And then you also get priority scheduling. And then you also get this and you get that. And here's the kitchen sink and my dog. So you get all of these things thrown at you. And as a client, it's hard to comprehend all of that. You're like, okay, wait, so I get, X amount of here and I get this and that. So how do you break that down to just a simple terminology about what you're talking about? Is it just here's an option for a discount year round? What's kind of your recommended option for simplifying that, explanation of the recurring service and what they get?
Yeah, I honestly, saying less is more. So oftentimes, there's the old journalism adage, I'm sorry I didn't have time to write less, right? So keeping things clear and having clarity there is important. I think really what we try and do is we take the primary elements of the whole program and simplify it down into a couple things. So for example, for the structure that we often recommend is a discount membership program. The more times you get serviced, or your property gets serviced year round, the more you save per job. And that's a very simple thing of, twice a year, you get this discount, 3 times a year, 4 times a year, etc. Very simple. Some of the benefits of the program: priority scheduling, those simple bullet points in terms for that, because when they see that, they can say, oh, here's the bottom line, simple terms. I think we often will try to over-explain in like a long email, for example. We're trying to send an email to a customer to explain this, or we stand there talking to the customer and we want to give them all the details because we want them to understand it. But sometimes they don't want all the details at this point. Give them the bare bones, the basics of, hey, this is what you're getting. Here's the offer. And then if they have questions, allow them to come back to you and say, hey, I wanted to know about this. And that really helps the process so much more. Does that answer your question?
Absolutely. No, it does. Because I think people do, like you're saying, overcomplicate it and they add too many words. And then you're bombarding poor Miss Jones and she is not expecting it at that moment. She's not prepared for you to kind of sell this service to her right then and there on the job site. So being able to break that down into a simplistic terminology and really just, it sounds like really 1 to 2 sentences is what I'm hearing. Like really keeping it short and sweet with, follow-ups that do have bullet points included. So maybe in a text message or an email, or once maybe she didn't go with for the first time, but later on we can break that down further. So that way we can potentially answer more of her questions. It doesn't have to be a complicated process. What I'm hearing from Andrew, and I hope you guys are all hearing today, is simple is best, and making sure that we're being clear and concise to the client about the service that we're providing when it comes to recurring or membership or anything of that sort is very important. To be simplistic, be concise, but also remember it takes multiple touches. So that's kind of where I'm wrapping up, but go ahead and finish with your last
I'll wrap it up. I think a very simple exercise to do in this process is put yourself in the customer's shoes, or just imagine yourself as, hey, if I were given something about some program, whether it be in my business or different, what would I like to know? If I'm a very busy person, I have lots of things going on, what would I need to know? And, and how would I like to know about that information? It's all about, good communication design, whether that be visual or, verbal.
I love it. All right. Well, I think Megan's going to go ahead and take over here. Andrew, I appreciate your time with me talking marketing in regards to recurring services. So I'll pass you off to Megan.
Awesome. I loved hearing Andrew, you say 15 to 20. I was like, it's actually true. I hadn't really counted how many touch points we were hitting. But I think we should take a step back and explain why this is so important for our listeners. I think that we can talk briefly about how HVAC and plumbing have added in membership programs really successfully, and they've integrated in recurring revenue. Or for our listeners who are in lawn care and in maid service, you've already done this. Your run rate, every new customer, the value of that customer is going to be extended out over the course of the year. But let's talk a little bit about, for those services that this is weird, like window cleaning memberships are weird. We're not really talking about that yet. Gutter cleaning memberships are weird. We're not really talking about that yet. We were talking to, I'm going to feel like everybody we talk to now, I'm like, oh, you should have a membership, or, oh, you should have a recurring revenue model. So can you share a little bit about why you went down this path, why you went down this rabbit hole, and like the economics of that for our listeners?
Yes. So when I started down this path a little while ago, a couple years ago, really it's about solving the age-old problem of every business, no matter what business you have, it can really be boiled down into 2 simple pillars, or this framework, which we can argue about, making it more complex. But really, it's about 2 things: acquisition and retention. Can you acquire customers at a predictable rate, which is a marketing thing, marketing and sales, and can you keep them? And so I was trying to, both for myself and some other friends, other service business owners around me, I was trying to understand, how can we continue keeping them? We spend a lot of money. We spend, invest time and effort into getting amazing customers. How do we make sure we keep them? So that's where I started, at least in this service business. I was saying, how can we, provide something for our customers that allows us to have revenue predictability, work year round, because they're calling us anyway, once or twice a year, to get servicing. So how do I make that actually happen and make sure that they get on the calendar every single time? So that was just to extrapolate from that. That's where all of this started. And to me, I'm going
to pause you for just a second. And I'm going to say that, like, so many times our listeners, you are sitting on a gold mine of a client list. And we think it's so sexy and fun to talk about marketing and sales and chasing that next customer and that new customer, but it's also expensive and exhausting. And we forget that we are sitting on this giant list of people who already know, like, and trust us. And we've forgotten to ask them what they want or what they need or how we can help them. And so one of the things that I love about recurring revenue is it's actually deepening those relationships with our existing clients. It's actually making us have more roots and like better feelings around that house and that family and that service. But we're supposed to be talking about money, not about feelings.
Right.
Something that happens there is, instead of investing so much in chasing that next lead, what if we invested some in just serving our clients that have already, done business with us? Yeah, I think that was the perfect tip to talk about the survey, but if you want.
Correct. And there's an amazing thing that happens, we'll just touch on it briefly, but surveying your customers, right? Because this is not necessarily a money thing. But when
actually, I'm going to say, let's say that for Martha, because she owns the software. I just realized, let's let Martha talk about the surveying. Right. We'll talk about multiples, because that's something we've gotten excited about lately.
Absolutely. So one of the amazing things that can I talk about? I have a quick comment about that. What happens?
We spend a lot of time together, and we have a very precarious working relationship. And by precarious, I mean we love each other and we love interrupting each other. Go ahead, Andrew.
It's great. We an amazing thing that happens when you start getting, I call it, revenue, predictable revenue, right? Revenue predictability, or annual recurring revenue is really what it is. When you have jobs on your calendar year round that you can count on, that Mrs. Jones is twice a year in May and December, or February and August. They're on those. It's on the calendar. It's incredible not only to have that revenue predictability, but it also, strangely enough, or not so strangely, increases the prospective valuation of your business. So when buyers or investors, VCs, whatever buyers are out there, are looking to invest and buy, mergers, acquisitions, business, particularly service businesses, they're looking for, is there recurring revenue? What is the revenue potential here? And when you turn around to sell a business, generally speaking, you have a couple assets. You have the trucks, you have your equipment, you have your people, some of the human systems, you have your software, and a customer list. But in the research that we found, your multiples, if you have predictable revenue, whether it be a recurring revenue program, membership, etc., that multiple that you can sell your business for goes up by 8 times, at least 8 times what you could sell it for.
Well, and we can talk about that, right? Like, so Andrew and I just gave a talk at a gutter cleaning side conference of GutterCon, and we asked, like, what are you selling? And when people think through what they're selling, a lot of people said correctly, goodwill, right? They're selling this brand and this relationship with this client and with this neighborhood, and we said, but how? Like, what happens if you get hit by a bus tomorrow? I was going to try not to talk about death, but here we are. We're going to talk about what happens.
The first question that you ask is like, what happens when you die? And I'm like, oh my goodness, this question goes several different ways.
Yeah, it was I thought it was effective, very sobering. Yeah. If you die today, the question was like, do your employees get paid on Friday? And does your family get paid next week? Like, what happens to all the people that you support? And do your customers get service, right? So, but we're not.
What happens when you retire is another question as well.
Oh yeah, retirement. That sounds way more fun. But this idea that our client list is not nearly as valuable as we think without us, because it's very surrounded to us and our personality and our systems. And so how do we make those systems stronger? How do we make that relationship stronger? How do we make that relationship transferable? And part of it is really getting to know that house, and really getting to know that family, and really getting to know that neighborhood, and building that relationship, and then putting a name on it, like a service agreement, right? We are going to take care of your homes, Mrs. Jones. We are going to be in the business of maintaining your home. Like, we are going to take this chore off of your plate. And once we put a service agreement on it, suddenly that is more transferable. Now, it's not a guarantee that Mrs. Jones is going to stay with you, but when a buyer comes because you've been hit by a truck, or you've decided to retire, or whatever, now they're actually buying more than just trucks and ladders. Now they're buying relationships. And I feel like the math that we've done is really compelling about, we've worked so hard, so many blood, sweat, and tears in our businesses. And yet when it comes time to exit, there's not a lot there to show for it. Like in the window cleaning world, you can usually see like 3 months of your gross receipts is a solid valuation. And so if we could multiply that by 8, that feels a little bit better. So awesome. Okay, I think did we hit it? Did we give them the compelling math reasons of why they should chase recurring revenue?
I think so.
I think we did too. And then they can go back to the how of Tay's section, right? So if you're listening to this, that, you know, Andrew, what I heard him say was keep it simple, keep it customer focused, keep asking because they actually need it. Don't be afraid to ask them. And I love that. So we're going to pass you to Michelle, and you guys are nerd out about all things AI, automation, tech stack. I'm not sure where you're headed, but I can't wait to hear.
No, I want to hear, Andrew, now that you've sold this product to your customers, right? Tell me how the folks either in the office or the business owner can run that tech stack in the background, and how is that a simple process for them? How do you kind of see that vision that we can share with our listeners?
Absolutely. And if there's one thing you know about me in this whole conversation is I'm an automation nerd. I want to automate as many things in my life. I've also learned, if we have time later today, I can tell a couple funny anecdotes about there's some things that shouldn't be automated. We can get into that. I don't know if Martha, if we talked about that this past week, but I told that story a couple times. So in regards to automating this maintenance and membership program, that one of the recurring revenue, right? One of the primary problems we found is when we try to, in the service business, and we're talking specifically home service businesses, when we're trying to build membership programs, maintenance programs, a lot of us try to start tracking things either via paper or Google Sheets, Excel spreadsheets, etc. And that works up to a certain point, sort of, maybe. You have, the last service date of the customer, and you're like, oh, well, this is the next time we need to call them. Or you just have a list of customers that you call every year and say, hey, it's time to get scheduled, and you do that. And that's fine. But I want to make sure that they're actually, on the calendar. So to simplify the whole process, the way I wanted to do when we built this product, the way I wanted to run it is once the customer signs up, I don't have to do anything whatsoever. It takes into account their last service date. It projects out, all the future dates. It, communicates with them. I don't want to have to touch that customer again. I just either myself or send my team out to go service the property at the given times. So as much of that process that is automated, I do that. I automate it.
And I feel like
I don't know if you want to dig deeper into that.
I think we forgot to say that you own a gutter cleaning company and that you've helped several other gutter cleaning companies. So for the listeners,
Correct.
When he says,
oh, that's helpful. Good, yeah.
Solving, I feel like that's important to hear. Like he was solving this problem for himself and then for his friends and now for many people. But this was a pain point that you were really struggling with, Andrew, was to
Correct.
deliver on your promise.
Right. I mean, that is one thing in the power of automation, right? When I had a friend come to me and he said, he owned a home service business, and he's like, I am working all day, working all night. I, do all the servicing during the day with my teams, and I come back and I quote everyone, I manage all the leads and everything, and I try and quote, and I know people are falling through the cracks. And so to make a long story short, I came in and said, hey, let's figure this out and systemize everything. And we automated his entire, leads in, quoting, all the communication, every single process, to where the outcome of that was he was able to go down from working 80 hours a week down to 4-day weeks, and he was able to double and triple his monthly revenue in the 6 months after that. So when we talk about outcome and that's kind of goes into personal mission. The reason why I love getting up every day and talking about automation and everything is it's not just about saving time, it's really transforming our lives. It's being able to live more meaningful and impactful lives. So anyway, I got really philosophical there, but
I love it. So if we put a membership program into our business, we're a home service business owner. Is there, I'm sure there is, but tell me about the human component that is part of that membership. Is there like quality checks and like calling the customer and making sure things are going okay? Or have you automated all of that as well? Tell me kind of where can you fit the human touch part in there? or is that something you see kind of shifting away from? I mean, that's a question, honestly.
Right. Well, the goal behind all automations, or the goal behind most automations, is really to not only save time, but I also want to make sure that when we automate things, it doesn't take away from the human experience.
Yeah.
So you're right about asking that. We don't want our customers to feel like they're dealing with a robot. So I want to make sure that when we do all that, I still know exactly who Mrs. Jones is. I know that she lives here at this address, and here are her interests and likes, and et cetera. We haven't at this point in the membership program put into effect check-ins, like human check-ins.
Okay. Sure.
But we send our emails, or we send the text messages, or voicemail. We'll also drop voicemail bombs into their voicemail
Perfect.
with the human element. So we try every touch. What's that?
In outbound calls, so we send automations to our call center and to our office admin saying, call this customer or call this customer. I actually got a call from, a small shout out to Jill's office. I got a call from my call center the other day, and I answered it, and they were pitching me a membership, and it took me a minute, and I was like, and then I finally realized, like, I'm a test customer in Responsivid, and they were just following.
Of course.
And I finally realized, like, oh, you're actually calling the owner, and I'm good, thank you. But wow, talk about like a human component to an automated system that's so automated that I forgot that I had set up this system, and then I was talking to a real person about this thing. It was so awesomely beautiful and silly. But
great.
I feel like leveraging that human component with that automation, and then the system part of, like, I said it and I forget it, or Andrew said it and I forget.
Right. Well, it's about automating or delegating, right? For you personally, is if you can't automate it and make it a meaningful, world-class experience for your customer, if you can't do that in a meaningful way, then we delegate it over to someone, call center, et cetera. So again, it's about making the whole process a human experience. Which we could easily pass into an AI discussion about that, but that's
well, that's kind of where I was going. And so if you add the human component, yes, that's where I was going. So then now that we know that the human component is part of it, now how do you shift that to being AI so that experience isn't, degraded in any way? Do you see that happening in the future?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. If it's not happening right now, then in the future. I mean, we passed the Turing test a long time ago, right? And for those who don't know about what the Turing test is, it was a test on humans to see if they could distinguish between a human or a computer in terms of conversation. And we passed that a long time ago. I don't even know, it was like post World War II, but correct me if I'm wrong on that. Fact check me. So because I kind of lost my train of thought there. You're saying about the future of conversation and everything. Conversational AI is here. There's actually tools out there that we're actually exploring right now. I don't know.
Cool.
You had like one yesterday, I think. I can't remember what it was, but
I did. Yeah, I texted you. Well, I mean, ChatGPT is the first publicly available. I
gotta pause you real quick. Michelle, the text yesterday was like, "Can we please have a Slack channel? I don't like texting you." And I was like, "Oh my God, Michelle Myers in the house."
Keep trying. We're at 3 years now. We're 3 years in. I'm trying. 3 years. I've been ahead of you. I'm trying.
You're on a text message thread? Still text message or Slack?
I've been. Yeah.
It's funny.
I've been trying to get her into Slack for 3 years, is what I was saying. So well, I'm with you.
I'm on your side as well. I'm on your side. I want to have that happen.
Yay!
So ChatGPT is one of the. It launched in December. It's kind of broken the world, and if you haven't played around with it or learned about it, then I highly recommend that you do. It's first publicly available language AI model, and to keep things brief, because of this tool that has been built, there's a couple other iterations from other companies that have been built at this point. Other people have been able to build on top of that and build cooler tools. So more helpful. So for example, here's one. It's I think custom GPT is the name of it, and there's several by different names. But the idea is that you can upload for twofold your internal team members or yourself, employees, or even customers, current customers or prospective customers. This is a tool to help them. So you upload your handbook for employees, your benefits packages, any internal SOPs, documentation, standard operating procedures, that sort of thing, and you upload all these documents into the AI model, and it can actually, it categorizes everything and then becomes basically a chattable feature. So then your employees can say, hey, what is our benefits, or what's our policy on paid time off, or what particular benefits, and it will actually answer things in a very conversational way,
personal,
personal and human, very, very human. Outside of them having to do Command F or Control F and try and find it in the Microsoft Word document, then try to understand that, it makes the whole process easier. So for team members, it's a huge help for that. On the employees, on the customer side, having either customer support or questions about pricing, or if you have a full document of every single thing about your window cleaning company, the pricing model, etc. Imagine if you just had, it's not just a chatbot that you've set into sequences of question answers. It's an actual, basically, person that is answering questions like, hey, what's your pricing about windows? Like, what's your policy about French panes? Or, how do you clean gutters? What is your method? And it's able to answer that in an effective and, efficient way without any human involvement, based on the content that you've created, that you've put into there and trained the model. So
I love
that's what
it.
I'm very excited about, the future of AI.
I love it. Well, thank you. That was super, super helpful. I know now how you're making people essentially superhuman through this use of not only automations, but AI. So thank you. That's awesome. Speaking of humans, I'm going to pass you off to Martha. Thanks so much, Andrew.
You're welcome.
Oh, and can we interrupt with a plug for Admin Bootcamp? We did a demo of ChatGPT, and Michelle and I were like nerding out at the front of the room. The whole room was like on fire. We wrote client fire letters. We wrote W-9 emails. We wrote job descriptions. It can write a training program. We wrote proposal emails. Like, these admins, they were like, wait, what?
Yeah.
We've written a resume. We've written a bio. We've written like so many things with ChatGPT.
Good stuff.
Tay was doing a meal plan, weren't you, just now? Meal plan or your exercise plan or something?
Yeah, I just did, while we've been on Fight Club, I did a 7-day meal plan and my grocery list.
Okay, I'm going to stop interrupting. But Andrew forced me to learn about ChatGPT during a meeting that I didn't have time for it. And I am very grateful. Every single day, I have been very grateful. So thank you, Andrew.
Yeah. And if I can, this is a good bridge between the systems and Martha's section as well. I've actually used it as I've been hiring and building out my team with Blue Renegade and hiring on new no code and low code engineers. Obviously, I know some of the requirements and skills that would be required, but I went through in about 10 to 15 minute process. I asked ChatGPT, I was like, hey, how, what are some things that I should be looking for in these engineers? And then I said, can you write a job description for this particular role? And it did it. I was like, awesome, great. What are some of the other things I should be looking for? And how do I test for those skills? And it gave me a couple examples. And one of them was, you can design a test project for them to work on. So then I asked it, what are 3 to 5 different test projects I could give to my applicants? And it gave them to me. So it was going deeper and deeper. And just in about 10 to 15 minutes, I'd spent, it could have been 6 hours, a 6-hour process, but I finished it in just a short amount of time. So again, it's very meaningful, and it helps, bridging the gap between systemizing and automating things while also creating more meaningful human experiences.
This stuff is dangerous for people like us.
Yeah.
Talk about going down a rabbit hole and like, oh my gosh. I'm sitting here thinking, you could upload like all your policies and just a ton of information on the back end, and then on an employment page, you could let them ask all these questions and then just have a conversation with them about, you could basically say, what would you like to know about our company? And then they could, and same for clients, of course, but I can just see that conversation go on. And then I'm also thinking, we're working with an employee predictability company, and a lot of this is the AI. It's really fascinating.
Do you know that Andrew started in medical recruiting? And he did the marketing for recruiting. And so I feel like that is awesome. And I've told Andrew many times, Andrew, don't distract me. I cannot go down that rabbit hole. I don't even want to know that's possible today because my brain can't handle it.
Yeah, things are moving very fast. Things are moving very fast in this industry. So,
you guys mentioned earlier, I wrote it down, that, we spend a lot of time on marketing to clients when we should be focusing on retaining them. And that made me think of employees that, honestly, if your marketing and your automation in that hiring funnel is good, then, and you've chosen the right employee, you should be able to retain them. And
right.
it really, it just made me think about, there's things in your company that are kind of like a membership program, but for employees. And I'm feeling like maybe that's the way we should change some of our verbiage, because when your employees enter that higher level where they're in that pay for performance level, that's a type of membership, and we don't, that's one thing that most of us don't do well enough, is elevating the status when they're reaching those numbers. It's more about the payout and not enough about that elevated status. But funny thing is, that's not really even what I wanted to talk to you about, Andrew. We're one and the same as far as all over the place. Yeah. But you mentioned surveys earlier, and we said we would stop and wait for my section to talk about surveys. So yes, I'm going to pass that to you and let you talk about surveys.
Sure. And to wrap up kind of what you were just talking about, I think the framework of acquisition and retention, I think we talked about either with Tay or Megan, the acquisition and retention framework for customers, it happens with employees as well. How do you acquire and keep good employees at a predictable rate? So that's absolutely very important. So talking about surveying, this happens for both on the customer side and on the employee side, which is really in your wheelhouse, Martha. So talking about real quick, I'll just give a 30-second brief. When building a recurring revenue program, one of the first things we wanted to do is simply ask our customers and say, what do you want? And in an intelligent and efficient way. And so we were actually pleasantly surprised by a lot of the results of that. I think in this particular case, I'll just briefly mention, when we asked our customers about the frequency or about how often would you like your property be serviced with these particular services, we were really surprised at the results. Over 78%, I think, Megan, 78% of our customers wanted to have their property serviced more than twice a year. And so in our minds, we just thought, our customers want to be serviced, they're generally right now getting serviced once or maybe twice a year. But we had a large portion of our
3 years, or once every 5 years. I mean, they really were not being serviced on a regular schedule, despite our efforts. In my case, in my business's case, yeah.
Right. So they wanted twice a year or every 4 months, every 3 months. I don't think for our businesses historically, we've actually had a couple for every 1 or every 2 months, which is pretty amazing. So what's amazing about that survey, though, is for our customer side, and I'll get to the team employees, Martha, in a second. But when we asked that question of, hey, what services do we offer that have you used, and how often do you want these? Not only was it actually getting information from them, but it was also priming their minds, psychologically, kind of not psychologically, that sounds like manipulative, but it was pre-framing their minds to think about, oh yeah, I would love to have my windows, gutters, like house washed, carpets cleaned twice a year or every 3 months, or it pre-framed that, so that when we did publish and launch our recurring revenue or our membership program or maintenance program, they were ready and said, oh my word, yes, please, this is amazing. And so that was an incredible thing about surveying them, serving our customers, and which is why that's one of the first things that we do in our Service Ally program is we send a survey to the customer base. Secondly, I think this is probably something you want to talk about, is on the team member side, right? So the acquisition and retention and surveying team members and employees. I don't know, where do you want to take this conversation? So I know
take it wherever you want to.
I think one thing that we often don't realize is we get so busy in chasing after customers and trying to get new customers and keep them, that we kind of don't think about our employees, or I don't like using the word employees. I like team members, and that sort of thing. But thinking about them as also our target audience. We want to be engaging them. We want them to be happy and healthy. And when our employees are happy, when our team members are happy, they take care of our customers and make our customers happy. Yeah. So I know this is one thing that you're very passionate about, is understanding our employees, our team members happy and healthy and working efficiently. So using automation and tools like that to either not just check in, having surveying your team members and employees, but also just being like, hey, how are things going?
Yeah,
what's happening? So
yeah, we were small enough that, and I would say, unless you get over, like, this is just me, this is my opinion, but unless you get over like 20, 25 employees, I personally prefer to survey them in person. So I would survey them at our monthly staff meeting every month. And we had sections that were, we had like a monthly meeting agenda template. And in part of that template was surveying their satisfaction. And the reason that I like to do that in person is because I could weed out the BS. So
more qualitative as opposed to quantitative.
Yeah, I think there's absolutely a place for online surveying to your employees, but we would go around the room and, and as you get very big, then maybe you make them turn that in, and you've accumulated the scores prior to the meeting. But
right. Sorry, if I can interrupt you there. I think sure. the key here is, I know we talk about automation, but in this case, I'd like to actually talk about it's a systemization. So the way you're describing, most of our businesses, and those who are joining us today may have 5, 10, 15, 20 employees. We're mostly small businesses. And so I agree that the more in-person approach is helpful. But you just mentioned there that you have a system, you have a template, and you have a process. Yeah. Whether it's still it's a human, in-person process, but you still have a process that is ultimately, automating or saving you some time, so that it's not like you're starting from ground zero every single time you sit down with an employee and say, how are you doing? Are you happy? Right. What's your satisfaction, etc.
Right. And so whether you do it automated prior to the meeting or you ask at the meeting, what I like to do is have my scale, have them rate it, whether it's a 1 to 5 or 1 to 10 happiness level. And then you ask them, what would it take to move that number by 1? What if you're rating it at a 7? what would it take to move it to an 8? And that's when you get some of that feedback that you were getting out of your surveys to clients that's saying, these are the things that are needed. And then you can take that information and then, follow up. So sometimes my employees would say, I want this benefit. And so, in practical examples, maybe fits. So then you're having a conversation about, okay, I can't add this benefit without interchanging it for something else. And then you're having that conversation about maybe this isn't as valuable to people anymore and they'd rather have this. So that's where those conversations are good. And the other thing that I would say is when people give, if you're surveying on a scale of 10 and people give a 10, what I like is being able to say, to their face, say, so everything is perfect. There is absolutely nothing we could do better. And, and when is that really? Right.
Yeah,
And
right, exactly.
Yeah.
I'm going to interrupt because I love this. And we do this thanks to Martha, like we survey every week. But Andrew has something very interesting about the way he surveys himself. Can you tell Martha about your scale system?
Oh.
I would love.
It kind of blew my mind because it's so smart, because it solves that 0 or 10, that polarity of like, how are you feeling? Do you know where I'm
Yeah,
thinking?
so, exactly. No, I do. So in terms of the scale from like 0 to 10, 0 to 10 when surveying, that can work in some cases, but when you do that, the end result is always going to be the average of 6 or 7. So the case that Megan's talking about that I told her about is I developed a whole system, an automated system, Michelle, of surveying myself. So I wanted to understand my biology and energy levels throughout the day, and also do some habit tracking, etc. So I set up an automation to text me at the beginning and end of the day. So it texts me a link to a form at the beginning and end of the day, and it asks me a couple of simple questions. One of those questions is, what's that?
I said, of course you did.
Of course I did, yes. So one of
Andrew's my people. Andrew's my people.
Yes.
We can have a whole discussion about your Enneagram types, and I bet Michelle and Andrew are similar, and we could have a whole, okay, keep going.
Oh, for sure. For sure.
We're running out of time, but I want Martha's going to love this scale that you built. So keep going.
Right. So 2 of the questions on that survey at the beginning and the end of the day, I asked myself basically, hey, how are you feeling today? Like, what's your happiness level? From on a scale of -2 to 2. And I actually took out 0 in that point because I wanted it to be more binary, more specific. And I also asked the question like about energy. How are you feeling on a scale of -2 to 2? And when you do that, it takes all the average of like 7 out of it, because what I wanted to know is over the course of months and weeks, days, weeks, months, I wanted to see the energy cycles, because I was finding, I know this is not about people necessarily, but I was finding that my energy was going in waves of every 6 to 8 weeks. And every 6 to 8 weeks, or sometimes 10, I would just hit a massive burnout period, and I hate my life, I hate everything, I hate everyone, and I want to quit everything. And so I found that when I was starting to near one of those energy dips, I just needed to take a long weekend, take a couple days off, read, rejuvenate, recover, and then I'm motivated again, and I hit the ground running really quickly and efficiently. So, but to Megan's point, I wanted to understand the binary of -2 to 2. It was a better surveying tool for myself, because otherwise I would get just average of 7 every single time, and that wouldn't really tell me anything helpful about the data.
Wow.
And like about his energy throughout the day and his energy throughout the week, and he's like really nerding out about energy management, which is like, I think, hacking to an extreme of like, why do we fight a 40-hour work week?
Love this.
But my word, we could have another whole, I think, fight club about this and productivity and energy management.
But where we wanted the polarity,
Love it.
Yeah,
Because I mean, I love that.
Oh, go ahead,
Sorry.
Michelle. Sorry, I was gonna say real quick thing. I that whole topic or discussion, I go after energy management as opposed to time management. So I'd rather work 3 or 4 hours a day, and that's not my actual work day, but I'd rather have 4 hours of high, 100%, 120% capacity where I'm working, at the highest peak of my performance versus 8 hours of mediocre meh.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, honestly, one application from this past week is Tay and I were talking right before the call. We all went to a conference, and I now build in a day of recovery, whether it be a weekend day or a work day. And I take that day completely off, don't do meetings, and try not to do work, because I found that if I try and work on that first day back from traveling, conference, vacation, whatever, I'm like 60% at 60% performance throughout the week, versus if I just took the time to rest, I'd be at 100% for 4 days, which is much better, much
So
more
good.
productive.
Yeah, we literally said it's okay to watch the silly reality TV on the day before you go back to work. Like, that's perfectly fine to just binge that. And
What's your guilty pleasure, Tay?
What's your 100%? The Bachelorette, my guilty pleasure. I'm there. That's me.
Right now anyway, go ahead.
I was just going to say, I'm going to pass it back to Tay because we're running out of time. But yes, it is fascinating. And I was thinking of a couple of people as you were talking, thinking, oh my gosh, they would love this. Because they get into that, whether it's like vitamin supplements or, just a bunch of different things. So
one thing, if I may take like
40
seconds to talk about this. One thing that we kind of touched on, that it's a little different topic, Martha, is in using automation or using systems to really better increase the employee and the team member experience. And one way that this is, I haven't been able to formalize this yet, but I've helped other people implement this, or I've seen this done really well, is we have I've automated my whole applicant tracking system, the hiring process, even to the onboarding process and everything. And one thing that I try and do, maybe this would be helpful or meaningful to everyone here, is in those, you mentioned those surveys, or like surveying, how are things going? How are we doing?
Yeah.
In the onboarding process, what I have done and what I want to do is have conversations with my team members, say, hey, what are some goals that you have? What would you like to get out of this role, out of this career? And I survey them in that way, so that at the beginning of the process, I have kind of a benchmark, or an anchor point of what they wanted to do at the beginning. And then throughout the process, I'm trying to help them create a basically a career plan. And my philosophy behind that is I view team members and culture building and people as I am here. There's seasonality to everything, and sometimes that's with people as well. And so I don't get too attached to people. I'm like, hey, I want what's best for you as a team member. If you're going to come work with me, whether that be for 6 months, whether it be for 10 years, there's seasonality to that. So I want you to get to the next level of whatever goals or you have in your life, whether that's with me or not. And so we try to use systems, about tools, technology to help kind of systemize that process, because it makes it much more meaningful to the team members. So just wanted to put that in there. That's a really helpful tool or way of thinking about that.
Yeah, we had a 52-week automated onboarding system, and it had a bunch of it had education. It had touch points, but if you're the listener and you don't have any type of follow-up for your employees, then at the very least, I would recommend automating reminders for touch points, because
to yourself, to you,
exactly,
as owner, right?
So that you're automating reminders to the office manager, the owner, whoever, to do one-on-ones and check in with your employees. And you'll want to set it up for those crucial times that you lose people. So we did it at the end of training. We did it at 1 month, 3-month, 6-month, and a year is the way that we would do that. So that's at the very least. But yes, I love
Right,
all
and that's
things automated.
and that's
And I have to go. I'm so sorry.
Okay. Let's do homework.
Go ahead,
Okay.
give your homework, and I'll give the rundown on how to do homework once you're done.
Okay, I'm gonna give my homework and then I'm gonna bounce. I'm sorry, Andrew. Thank you for being here. And I love talking nerdiness with all of you. Like Michelle was drooling just now. Your finance homework for this week, Kay's gonna give you the rundown on what we mean by homework, but your finance homework for this week is to look at what your business is worth today. And just be realistic with yourself. What are you actually selling? And what would somebody else get for it? And try to take your feelings out of it. Just try to think about, what is this worth? And once you have that kind of self-evaluation, what are some things that you could do to change that number? What are some things that you can do today to change that number? And in the Facebook group, I will drop some books that I've read that have helped me change that number over the years. But that is your finance homework for this week. And love y'all. Thank you.
Bye. Awesome. So what homework consists of, everyone, is just, this is a way to make sure you're being held accountable each week by listening to our podcast. So we want to make sure that you put into action what you hear this week and really be diligent and intentional about that. So we only want you to choose one piece of homework, and that is for a reason. This can go very deep. Some of these homeworks, as Megan just said, that's a very, deep piece of homework to make sure that you are working on for your business. So as we go through, Andrew, you're more than welcome to give homework. We'll kind of save you for the end. But just a reminder, Megan's homework was to look at what your business is worth today and then what you can do today to make sure you can change that number. So marketing homework is going to be, what service in your business could you turn into recurring? And I want you to just take a look at that. And most business owners have a service that they can do that with. And we just haven't taken the time to look at our services and really see how we can better our customers' experience, which is, in my opinion, very much a marketing piece, is making sure your customers are happy so they stay with you longer. So we're going to look at your services that you have currently. We don't need to add anything new. I don't want you to add a brand new service that's recurring. I want you to look at what you have currently and see what you can add as a recurring service.
Ooh, good stuff. And your systems homework is to check out Custom GPT. I might have already gone on and opened an account while we were on Fight Club. I'm sorry. I'm really sorry. So I want all of my dorky friends to join me there and figure out how we can add a chat bot. I'm going to add it. Actually, I'm going to take your advice, Martha, because we have a ton of people that apply to work with us that do have a lot of questions. So I'm going to try it there and see how it works, and then move it to the customer experience. So I'm going to try it with employees and see how it works. So exciting.
Awesome.
Thank you, Andrew.
Awesome. Okay. Your employee homework is going to be to add those touch points that I talked about. So if you don't have automated reminders to do one-on-one with your employees, you need to do that. And like I say, mine were during training. And then at the 1 month, at the 3 month, the 6 month was a performance eval, and the 12 month was a performance eval, but those are still touch points. You don't have to do my increments. You figure out where you're losing people, and that's where you need to get them in before that. Yeah. Okay. Andrew, you want to give them some homework?
Yeah, I mean, all of you had amazing homework points. I think that one thing one question or topic I usually discuss in conversations of all the things I'm passionate about, which, as you can see, there's many things that I could talk about things for hours. So if anyone ever wants to jump on a call and talk about AI, about data, about marketing systems, culture building, etc., I'm here. I think one question, or a couple questions that sticks out to me to implement is, when you think about recurring revenue, when you're thinking about marketing, systemizing things, people, I think the primary question that we should ask ourselves is, ultimately, what do we want out of XYZ. And I know we didn't really talk about goal setting necessarily, but I feel so often as business owners, we often will set these, you do your planning at the beginning of the year. You say, I want, I'd like to grow by X amount, and some of us don't even do that. But being consistent and thinking about, what do I want? Where am I going with all this? And how do I get there is really critical, because that's where that ultimate, overarching thought work or framework or, goal is what everything else leads into. It's what leads into marketing. How many customers do I need to get to my, revenue goals for this year? System, Megan's not here, but, money and everything. Like if my goal is to sell or exit the business in a certain amount of years, what does that look like? And what do I need to do to take it there? Systems, how do I fire myself from the business or from these areas? If my goal is to retire in 10 years or 15 years or 5, and then people, with this goal in mind, what people do I have to bring on in order to make this vision or this goal, achievable? So I think that boils into my homework is think about that, bring out a piece of paper and write that down, because that can be one of the most meaningful and helpful things to really get clarity on, are you moving forward towards actually what you want, and in all these different areas. So I don't know. How's that for homework? Is that good?
That's beautiful. That was great.
That was perfect.
And then Andrew, we always end with a quote, and I found this one while we had our time together, and I thought it was really good. And it's the one from Josh Kaufman, and he says, "The paradox of automation: the more efficient the automated system, the more crucial the contribution of the human operators of that system." I think we touched on that for sure a couple times today. Thank you so much for joining us. You are an absolute pleasure and a joy. And now we know why Megan loves you so much and spends so much time with you. So
how would somebody get a hold of you, Andrew?
I was going to say, I feel like people are going to need to know.
I'm so sorry, Tay. I'm so sorry, Tay. I forgot that.
That's fine. For what purpose or what? For what business or what?
You've got a lot of good touch points today. So, I mean, you can open the door. Do you want to give them an email? Do you want to just tell them?
Sure. I mean, even
Facebook, what would work best?
Facebook is probably the best. I mean, for recurring revenue, if you have a home service business and you're interested in, recurring revenue, I just kind of give 30 to 45 minutes of my time on a strategy session with you to figure out, hey, how would you implement recurring revenue into your business? And we talk through that. So that's just more of a strategy session. So if you go to serviceally.io, I think we have that link, or we can drop it in the comments. You can go and grab my calendar there. For any of the other things that we talked about, or interest, or anything, we can tag my profile, my Facebook profile here, and just shoot me a message. I read every message that comes in, obviously, to my Facebook. So that'd be the best way to do that.
Beautiful.
Thank
you. Thank you.
Calendar link from Service Ally, so it's there.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Okay, great.
Good.
Awesome.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much for having me today. It's been a pleasure. I always get so hyped up and energized. That's the other thing. We talk about energy management, right? And I see those dips. I try also conversation like this and talking about meaningful topics with meaningful people. It's amazing, and it just gets me energized and excited. And I'm so glad you guys were able to talk about all this today. So
yeah, it was fun.
Let's go make our businesses in the world a better place.
Again, because you've got a lot of knowledge to give to our listeners. So listeners, be on the lookout. We'll probably have them back on soon.
All right, listeners, go fight.
Go fight. Have a great day.
Bye, everybody. See ya.